Hey everybody, it's Aaron, and today we are going to go over objectives. Objectives, like events, are one of those things that are pretty complicated, so we're going to go over a basic example to kind of get how they work, and I can do more in-depth tutorials in the future. But the basic example that I'm going to run is I've got a player here, and I've got a base here, obviously, and then up here in the mountains, because we're back at my runway to pathway base. I've got this second base here in my little cool tucked out fortress area here. So the objective, I'm going to make two objectives. I'm going to make the objective for the player to land up or fly up into the front of the crevasse here, and then the second objective is going to be to land at this waypoint within a certain radius. So preliminaries are already done. So let's get started making the objectives. We'll do a simple overview here really quick. So kind of a lot going on here again. So when you first get into the objective editor, you have to decide what kind of objective it is that you are trying to make. Again, in our case, we're going to make a fly to event and or objective and a land objective. But you can get this, mix this stuff with events and other objectives, and get into some really complicated stuff and make some really cool stuff. And then the additional power of the conditional editor, so that you can just come in here with advanced logic and just specify some kind of pass or fail condition for the objective itself. But today we're going to stay away from the conditional stuff. So we're going to make our first objective, and we're going to name the objective to fly to mountain. And then so it's set on fly to, and we're going to immediately start this one. And I should probably set a waypoint up there, honestly. So let me close this real quick. What I want to do is set a waypoint here. I will make another one and call it mountain. And I will move it slightly. So here-ish seems like a good spot. Apply. Alright, we'll go back here, get back into our objective editor. And so we're requiring the player to take off, and they're going to immediately fly to that waypoint, which is going to be the mountain waypoint that we just made. We're going to auto set it for them. We're going to say that this is required, and we're not going to give it any kind of, again, up to you on kind of what you're really running here. But for me, in the demonstration, I'm just leaving this stuff 0. Best to honestly give a description to most of your objectives, so that the player of your mission or campaign knows what's happening for the current objective in which they're trying to accomplish. So fly to mountain in my case. Okay, so now that we have our waypoint set, and we have our description entered, we're going to tell the user, hitting buttons again, that they have to come very close to this. So you can adjust the radius again of how close they're supposed to get to on a fly. So in this case, we want to keep things really tight, because that little mountain area up there is small. It's 1,000's fine. I'm not going to sit there. Can I type something in? But I'm not too worried about it. So you can trigger additional stuff if you would like to do something on the start of this event. Or objective, sorry. And again, trigger music, play a background message, initiate another event off into the distance for timing reasons, like if you have some enemies spawning off on the edge of a map, just whatever. Likewise, you can specify a completed event as well as a failed event, so that you can take specific courses of action depending on what happens with the objective. In this particular case, I'm not going to add any additional functionality here. It's just going to be pass or fail on whether you get into the radius of this thing or not. And then I'm going to make a second objective, which is going to be to land at the other base. So once the user enters the little cool tunnel area, air quoting tunnel here, from the waypoint that we add, now we want to get them to land at the base over here. So we're going to make another objective that's going to be to land. And tell them to land the plane, and then we're going to tell them to land. We're going to tell, so here's where you can specify if something's triggered and you're going to trigger it from an event, or if it's just simply another objective that the user has to do after another one. So it's an easy way to stack your events together. I haven't used final yet, but I can easily imagine to say that this is the last objective. So it'll start, but know that everything else has to be done before. Not 100% sure exactly how final works specifically. Again, relatively new to the editor myself, but I get the majority of what's going on here, but that would be my assumption here. So we're just going to go with the prereqs and tell them that they have to fly to the mountain first, and then we're going to set the waypoint as base 2. We're going to set the auto waypoint, so if they're looking at maps or anything like that, they'll know to go here. And we're likewise, again, we're not going to specify to play any music or do any of this stuff. Here's where, if I'm considering the landing, the completion of my mission, I could easily kick on some background music right here, and just some heroic stuff. You did a great job. So it's easy to kind of control a little bit of what you want to do once you understand these tools. But again, with all the varying types of options, especially under conditional, things can get really complicated with objectives. So with these two simple things, whenever the user would land, I believe because there is no more objectives to be had, I think the mission will autocomplete. I'm not 100% sure on how that works exactly, but that seems to be how it works when I make my other missions. So I believe that's how it works, but I believe that could also be what the final objective is supposed to be for. So again, I apologize for having the lack of knowledge, but relatively new myself. So I plan to just continue to say the last objective I have here, whether it's marked final or not, is going to ultimately be the one that is the finishing objective. So that's kind of how you connect objectives together if you're wanting to do things like this. So play with those, make something cool for the rest of the community to play, and I hope to see some of your guys' stuff on the workshop soon. And next time I am going to get into a more complicated eventing example, so that we can see events that trigger other events, and maybe make an objective included in there so something happens. And I'll put together a relatively realistic example of something you might want to do in a campaign. All right, catch you guys next time.